Hello and welcome to Colleague 7's Sprint Review for 17.08.02. This is for the development undertaken between the 9th of August to the 22nd of August. Starting with a sprint goal, and we're continuing to work on the diary and admin projects to enable self-sufficiency and diary management features. As a side project, we're also undertaking investigative works to improve and enable a more automated release process for Colleague 7 deployments. Looking at the high-level items and to explain further, in this sprint we've completed the work to allow the option to create meeting requests. We've continued to work in the admin area, in this sprint adding the option to delete teams, to ensure that there can only be one default per lookup, and including the ability to link to records from the merge and archive record features. We've applied some additional fields, namely department to the contact record and the last contacted date to both the candidate and contact entities. We've corrected an issue relating to the recording of the date and time when logging emails and resolved an issue that would affect email sending process in the event of a corrupt email signature. We've also investigated an enhanced publishing process for utilising team services when deploying new releases of Colleague 7. Perhaps not especially client facing, but this is work being undertaken to ensure that we have as much automation as possible with deployments and upgrades, so it's worth noting. We've been doing some work on resolving duplication issues and the loss of personal settings. These have knock-on effects to the speed in which histories are loaded, and among other areas as well. Also, we have an investigative item relating to a new solution for in-memory storage within the application. Again, not especially client-facing, but it does have knock-on effects to improvements of performance, so it's worth noting. We'll now go through a short demonstration on the key features from this sprint. Okay, so the first point we'll touch on, and it's really the main release of this build, is the option to now send a meeting request. So off a candidate record or any main entity, really, you have the option there for email off the main toolbar, and then when pressed, it'll obviously open out the email form. You now have an option here called email type, and you have there an option to switch this now to be a meeting request. So it could be this is a meeting request or an email, and on pressing that, obviously the additional fields associated to that type will then appear on the form. It's worth noting as well that off the to option here, another option for select users has come up. So if you want to set up a meeting on behalf of one of your colleagues, this is essentially the easier way in which you could do that. So if I just select users there and just look up a user on the system, then what I can do is obviously pull in that person's email address into that field. I can take my own one out of there. As far as the dates are concerned, let me just put in today's date. We'll put in the time. Yeah, 1 to 2, that's fine. Location, we'll just put at desk. Do a reminder on 15 minutes. That should then trigger the reminder on Outlook as well. So it'll be good to see that. And then test. Meeting request, and then we'll put that in there as well, test meeting request. As far as the templates are concerned, they can also be utilized within here, as can the merge codes as well. So it's basically the same as an email, but obviously incorporating the fact that it is a meeting request. If we send that now, so that's gone off. Yes, and already within Outlook, the meeting request has come up as a reminder. And if we go to our calendar in Outlook, we can see that meeting request has been added there. You can see to the recipient and obviously the details, just as you would expect it to. And that's essentially the main diary update that's been applied as part of this release. One other key point relating to the meeting requests is the option for the interview date and time to be pulled across into the meeting. So when you're on a requirement and you've gone to the candidates tab and you're looking to place a candidate into an interview, so let's put this candidate into an interview here. We'll set a time of 3 o'clock against today's date, and you put in whatever notes associated there. But on clicking save, it would obviously create the entry and then ask you if you want to send an interview confirmation. You click OK there, and it's obviously going to create the email, but you also want, if you then want to convert that, into a meeting request, on selecting a meeting request, the date and time of the interview will be pulled into these fields here as well. So as an important point of wanting to use the meeting request when logging interviews, that's been factored into here when you're recording interviews for sending an email. Okay, next point to cover is just a couple of the admin areas. There have been updates that have been applied to the admin area, more to the point. So this is an area, it's under constant improvement, but some of the things that we've done in this sprint, namely the option to delete a team or delete a user, so you can maintain this list better now. So if you want to delete a user, you just select there, hit yes, and then obviously that user is deleted. If you have deleted all of the users from a team, you then have the option obviously to delete a team, and that allows you to build hierarchies based on the layout of your business, and obviously that then has knock-on effects to the record ownership area and to lookup areas generally around the team hierarchy. So that area has now been better structured for you to maintain. Also in lookups, the default option here, we've made sure that there can only be one default per lookup. There was a scenario before where you could have multiple instances of default, which is obviously an error, and that's now been rectified. And also both in merge and archive now there's the option to view the associated records. So obviously within here you can see all your archived records. If we just extend that list perhaps to be all of the archived records that you have there, but what you can also do now is click on that record and it take you through to the record itself. So it's just a better overview or better way to access the associated records in the system. Okay, so the last point to cover relates to the additional fields that have been added to the contact and candidate area. So against the contact record, you have this additional department field that's been added underneath the job title here. You also have the last contacted date field here, and that's also the field that's also been added to the candidate record. So with regards to the last contacted date field, this is always going to be a date field which is non-modifiable. You're not going to be able to click in there and update it manually. With regards to its setup and how it's populated, this is when you create a history where you've used a history type that's been set to update the last contacted date field. So if I show you how that's done, so with regards to within here, against the admin area, if we go to lookups, and then if we go to history codes, and those history codes are obviously the history types that appear from the create history option that you see here. So against basically any of these history codes, what you've got as an option here is update last contacted, and if that is set to yes, whenever you created a history type or created a history with the type of that history type, then it would update the date field against the associated record, and that's just how the last contacted date field works. I just wanted to explain that. Just to revisit the roadmap again for this quarter, and as mentioned before, we have devoted really the first 2/3 of Q3 to enhancing the admin area and working on diary and task management within Colleague 7. Work in these areas will continue, but performance has also become a prominent theme in our development of late, and the Outlook integration project is now coming into focus. It's fair to say now that we're lagging a little behind our intended plans, but this isn't uncommon in development. What's important is obviously that we're transparent in our agenda and that you can see what we're working towards. And once again, to raise the point that your feedback and requests are welcome and help to shape the priority of our development. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the user voice integration. The next video will be the sprint plan for 17.09.01, and as always, this will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Thanks for watching.